22 kilograms of marijuana found in passengers' luggage. Baki considers reopening fraud office after court appearance. And students at Unitech halt operations.
This is National EMTV News with Meriba Tulo.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us for Tuesday's news. Another shipment of marijuana has been intercepted at Nadzab Airport in Lae, prompting police to call on PNG Air New Guinea and the National Airports Corporation to tighten security for outbound travelers to the New Guinea islands. 22 kilograms were found by security guards checking a passenger's luggage. It comes on the back of another arrest last month. The Tokwa-bound passenger is now in police custody.
It's not the largest quantity seized at Nadzab Airport, but it is the biggest in 2 months. 22 kilograms of marijuana packed in 2 large suitcases. The passenger resisted attempts to check the suitcases, saying he had left his keys somewhere and that he had nothing to declare.
22.2 kilograms of cannabis.
The marijuana was packed into rice bags and then wrapped in plastic. The suitcases were opened only after security threatened to prevent the passenger from boarding the Tokwa-bound flight.
He will appear in the summary court tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
The first port of call is usually the East New Britain province, and then they travel onwards to West New Britain, either by boat or plane. According to police, the smuggler had revealed that the marijuana was going to be sold to foreign buyers at a logging camp in West New Britain. If the suitcases had been allowed on board, the 6 packs would have been sold for 10,000 kina each, fetching the dealer close to 80,000 kina. Last month, another passenger was caught trying to smuggle 16 kilos of marijuana. He too was caught, arrested and charged. He's now serving 1 year and 4 months in Buimo prison. While the methods vary, they generally follow the same route. It's from the Simbu and the Eastern Highlands provinces to Lae, then they catch a flight to West New Britain and East New Britain provinces. It's either that or from the Highlands to Lae, then by boat to Siasia Island and onwards to West New Britain. It's a route where law enforcement is virtually non-existent. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Lae.
The National Court in Port Moresby has urged Police Commissioner Gary Baki to reopen the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate. Deputy Chief Justice Sir Gibbs Salika told Commissioner Baki in court this morning to consider reopening the fraud office or have the courts order him to do so. This comes after a trial involving Bogia MP John Hickey was adjourned to July because an investigating officer could not access files at the fraud office due to its closure.
The decision was handed down at 10:30 this morning before a packed courtroom. Now, Commissioner Gary Baki, who took the witness stand, told the Deputy Chief Justice Gibbs Salika that he temporarily closed the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate because he wanted to see accountability in the operations of the fraud offices. The court heard through an affidavit provided by investigating officer Detective Senior Constable Luke Upa that he was not able to access files at the fraud office and could not prepare witnesses to testify in court. On April 16th, Baki suspended NFAC Director, Chief Superintendent Matthew Damaru, including 4 senior fraud investigators in relation to 2 unsanctioned fraud investigations that were conducted into the Simbu and Eastern Highlands provincial administrations. On April 18th, Justice Alan David ordered the reinstatement of Damaru as the head of fraud office and issued orders that prevent the appointment of another acting fraud director. That same night, Commissioner Baki used his powers under the Police Force Act and ordered the temporary closure of the fraud office and summoned all fraud officers to return their weapons and vehicles. However, this morning the court heard that the powers of a police commissioner are still subject to the Constitution, and the Supreme Court orders that were made to restore Damaru must be respected. On this ground, Baki was urged to reopen the fraud office and allow Damaru to operate as the NFACD head. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Immediately after his appearance in court, Police Commissioner Gary Baki called a media conference where he said he was satisfied with the outcome of the court proceedings and will consider reopening the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate. He was also pleased that the Deputy Chief Justice emphasized the powers of the Commissioner and the need for police officers to abide by command and control of the constabulary.
Commissioner Baki confirmed it will take possibly 3 or 4 days to reopen the fraud office. He said there were matters of accountability that needs to be completed before reopening the office.
Now, the court requested that I should give consideration to reopening of the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption. I want to advise the media today and the people that I will do. All right, I will do that. But there are 1 or 2 issues that we will need to have on the accountability aspect of it. I will also be calling a meeting with all the fraud squad members, including their director. I will sit them down and I will talk to them before I take the next line of actions that will result in the reopening of the fraud squad office. That's not to say that as it is at the moment when it's closed, that investigators will use an excuse that they cannot access any files in there because they...
Mr. Baki warned that he will use the recommendations from the inquiry into the fraud office, which is currently under investigation, to restore accountability by his fraud officers. This is to also ensure that he is kept in the loop with what's happening in the country. Commissioner Baki said he has no intention of stopping the investigation.
And I think it goes to echo all along what I've always been talking about, the command and control of the organization. Okay, so it's very important. We should not be sidetracked by anything that is dictated, whether by the efforts of the police or otherwise. If there are investigations that needs to be carried out, the investigations needs to be carried out. It's not my desire to stop any investigations, but accountability rests with that individual member to his immediate director or to his assistant commissioner, and accountability there goes to the deputy commissioner and to me as the commissioner.
Basena Tayama, National EMTV News.
The Catholic Professional Society of Papua New Guinea has voiced its concerns about current national events being highlighted in the media. They have called on public office holders to step aside to allow due process and the rule of law to take its course without any influence. President of the Catholic Professional Society, Paul Harrington, said events in the recent past have called into question the effectiveness of the rule of law and the due process in the criminal justice system.
Because when you talk about integrity, it's not just about a question of law, it's a question of morality.
The Catholic Professional Society of PNG is a church group made up of lawyers and other professionals. A mandate of theirs is to comment on economic and political issues that affect the country. In a media conference today, the society stressed that the country's democracy has become the victim in the recent spate of abuse of the Constitution, the rule of law, and due process.
We as professionals and as a church group, we feel that the Christian principles, the morality, and the rule of law is under attack, particularly when our leadership, through their politicking or their power play, when that fight ends up in the undermining of the Constitution and the rule of law and democracy, it questions what they actually stand for.
President of the Catholic Professional Society and a lawyer by profession, Paul Harrington, said it should be the moral duty of persons holding public office to step aside after being charged until they are cleared by the due process of law.
I'm a lawyer. Now, I look up to my lead lawyer in my profession. Now, he unfortunately has been charged. Now, when he does not want to step aside, it calls into question the integrity. He may have the legal right not to step aside. He can argue legality, but there is also morality.
Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
The Unitech student body put to halt administration operations today and blocked the front gate to stop student movement as the school goes into the second week of protests, demanding the reinstatement of the National Fraud Squad Director, Matthew Damaru, and his men. They've also called on Prime Minister Peter O'Neill to step down because of the declining state of the economy. Students have been holding a series of forums discussing the issues. Bethany Harriman with this report.
Papua New Guinea University of Technology students have taken a series of steps to make sure that people in authority hear their petition.
No one is out of the lawyer.
The main gate is shut, vehicles have been impounded, the movement of those going in and out of the campus restricted, while administration operations have come to a halt as students continue with their demands in an indefinite boycott of classes.
The fight that now must stand for them, the fight is a national issue. We believe that it's a democratic right. We must take the issue, not taking the stand, we must stand up together and we must stand up.
Yesterday, the Unitech Student Representative Council reaffirmed the demands for the Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill, to step down and the National Fraud Squad to be reinstated by the Police Commissioner, Baki. The student body has put pressure on its Student Representative Council to come out and make the two calls after discussions in the 22 provincial groups.
That is why we see a lot of loans being taken. The second thing we found out was we do not have enough in the foreign reserve. That's why
student leaders are now speaking on behalf of the student body.
So students are standing up, the civil society, the communities are supporting that we must reinstate, the commissioner must reinstate ASAP as soon as possible the fraud squad so that they do their job.
The Unitech gates has remained shut. All administration operations have come to a halt, and as I speak, students are in a student-led forum to discuss these issues. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News, Lae.
And on the latest developments in Port Moresby, the UPNG Senate will not approve suspension of academic activities and will not support boycott of classes. However, they will not stop students' right to protest and present their petition to government. This was the message by the UPNG Senate this afternoon as they addressed requests by the UPNG SRC to suspend academic activities to allow them to protest and deliver their petition to the Prime Minister and Police Commissioner. University Vice-Chancellor Professor Albert Melam said there has been very good dialogue between the student body and the administration so far. However, students refused to meet Professor Melam this afternoon. The students have gathered into their regional groups and the majority say they will continue their protest. Meanwhile, students at the University of Natural Resources and Environment say they will return to class after the boycott yesterday. The students protested and petitioned Higher Education Minister Malakai Tabar, demanding him to suspend UNRE's current council members and senior executive management and appoint new ones. This follows allegations of corruption at the university's administration over the years. Minister Tabar yesterday said he won't suspend the council members as a formal investigation report has already been given to the Fraud Squad office. Minister Tabar said the investigation may take up to 4 months to be completed. But UNRE SRC President Scott Akena says students may stage another boycott if the investigation is not completed on time. Among stories after the break, a successful demographic health survey in Lae, new barracks for policemen and women, and UNICEF provides assistance at Engau Hospital. Stay with us. Welcome back to National EMTV News. The second demographic health survey pretest that was recently conducted in Morobe Province had a positive and successful result. This was revealed by Field Operations Branch Manager Lawrence Doriga, who conducted the 5-day event. This follows the demographic health survey workshop that was also recently conducted in Morobe Province.
The second demographic health survey pretest contained 6 census units in Lae and Makam districts in Morobe Province. Field Operations Branch Manager Lawrence Doriga said the demographic pretest was a success in terms of improvement in the overall interview time and high response rate. He added the rural village setting was much simpler to conduct the pretest compared to the urban settings due to limited time made available. The demographic health survey pretest is conducted as a requirement to finalize the content of the questionnaires that will be conducted in July this year. The main objective of the demographic health survey is to generate health indicators of the country and is conducted every 10 years in between census. The demographic health survey is implemented under the National Statistical Office. The first pretest was conducted in Gulf and Central Province earlier this year. Merlin Daukatam, National EMTV News.
Police Commissioner Gary Baki and representatives from the Australian High Commission yesterday opened new accommodation for single policemen and policewomen in Lae. The construction of the facility follows a needs analysis undertaken by the Papua New Guinea Australia Policing Partnership in 2014. The opening ceremony comes as Bumbu Barracks awaits the completion of a set of duplexes since 2013.
The construction of the single accommodation was managed by the PNG Australian Policing Program. It provides living quarters, kitchen and laundry facilities to new recruits who will be coming. 85 men and 20 women have been transferred to Lae. The 5 million kina prefabricated building donated by the PNG LNG project and transported from Port Moresby to Lae. The construction of the barracks was done by Red Sea Housing Services, the project funded by the Australian government. The 3 buildings will accommodate up to 164 single officers. The 105 new probationary constables will also increase police manpower in the city. The new officers will assist the command with its new structure.
The additional manpower coming in will benefit us. We will be able to fill up certain areas with, which are lacking, like the suburban stations and food bit and all that. We could use our police in those areas.
But there are lingering housing problems that remain 4 years on. Duplexes that our contractor began building 4 years ago remain incomplete. The contractor abandoned the job about 2 years ago. In the same barracks, the regional training center is incomplete, a stark reminder of the job that has not been done. Through the police modernization program, a recruitment training program was started in 2013. More than 2,000 new recruits were added to the total police strength of more than 6,000. This program is expected to continue until the department reaches the government's aim of having 10,000 policemen and women by 2018. Mata Luis, National EMTV News, Lae.
The general shortage of nutritionists and resources is putting a strain on services provided to patients suffering from malnutrition. With help from UNICEF, Engau Hospital is working to tackle the problem using methods that proved successful with HIV/AIDS malnutrition patients. Colleen Barilai reports.
This is the children's outpatient area at Lae's Engau Hospital. In a month, the clinic records up to 60 cases of severe malnutrition.
What we'd like to see is that we'd like to see nutritionists in all the health facilities and maybe in the districts. That's what we'd like to see. And I think that's what the department is trying to do, is to make sure that, this is being achieved. Even though, like everything else, you need to get it to be approved in the first place, and everything works according to that.
The Deputy Chief Pediatrician here, Dr. Teresa Rongap, says the clinic's common admissions lie at children between the ages of 0 to 5. Engau has a shortage of nutritionists. It's a reflection of the general shortage Papua New Guinea's health system faces. It is an area that isn't high on the list of priorities compared to maternal and infant mortality. With help from UNICEF, Engau is using treatment methods tried and tested.
In the sense that UNICEF and WHO have recommended ready-to-use therapeutic foods. It comes in form of milk and also peanut paste food, which we use for severely acute malnutrition in the hospitals.
Some of the patients who go to the clinic come from locations where there are no roads and limited basic services. The pediatric unit is faced with the challenge of limited supply of therapeutic food, which can only last for a certain period. Colin Barilai, National EMTV News, Leh.
Papua New Guinea's poverty level in the United Nations international rankings can be improved if the Oil and Gas Act and the Mining Act are reviewed to improve the state's interests. A prominent lawyer and politician has pointed out loopholes in both constitutional acts that continue to create what he describes as a good investment destination for petroleum and mining companies. Sinisene Yongumul MP Karenga Kua says the country is not earning money that it should because the constitution is not allowing it. Quinton Alom reports.
Papua New Guinea has remained a good investment destination for petroleum and mining companies. In fact, over 60% of the national budget is generated from revenues and tax collected from these companies. But behind the scene, the country is suffering from legal loopholes in the Oil and Gas Act and the Mining Act. The law states that all minerals and petroleum belongs to the state. But despite many years of multi-corporate companies running the show, with the government given a certain percentage as equity, the country's poverty level on the international scale remains extremely poor. In 2013, the United Nations ranked PNG 156 out of 187 countries with poor access to health, education, clean water, etc. PNG has the highest number of mining companies in the Southwest Pacific and recently a leader in the oil and gas industry. But the country is still borrowing money from international corporations to finance its shares in the sector. Prominent lawyer and politician Karenga Kua said the huge loans borrowed to buy shares in oil and gas companies and the poverty level for the country on international scale can be improved. He identified a problem that exists within the Oil and Gas Act and the Mining Act that gives away 100% ownership to the developer and argues that this has to change.
Upon the grant of the petroleum development license and upon the grant of the mining lease, the state's ownership to petroleum and to the minerals is forfeited right at that point in time. It's forfeited lock, stock, barrel. It's forfeited without any compensation in return.
Unless the laws are changed, he argues that PNG will continue to borrow and buy shares.
We should not be using that revenue to be busily paying off the loan. As the resource dwindles, it goes down. And because we are under pressure for development, we go out and we borrow more, and the cost of the borrowing and the interest, the cost go up, so we are busy paying the second pile of loans, and so we are busy paying off that loan, and the resources continue to dwindle. We go out and borrow a third batch, a fourth batch, so we are still paying loans as the resource runs out.
Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
And now looking at our finance news, the Kina opened 10 points lower at $0.3165 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.3090 US, $0.4002 Australian dollars, $0.2651 euro, and 32.64 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, copper closed higher, while gold, coffee, and cocoa closed the day lower. Palm oil and crude oil closed higher, while copper closed the day unchanged. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed at 117 points higher, the ASX closed 110 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed 103 points higher. You're watching National EMTV News. We'll be back with more after these messages. Welcome back to National EMTV News. Divine Word University has taken a bold stand in its MBBS program to meet the country's need for more doctors. Dean of the Medicine and Health Sciences faculty, Dr. Clement Malau, told National EMTV News there is a critical need for more doctors. He said the national health system lacks sufficient workforce, especially in rural areas, to improve primary health care.
Since introducing its Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery, MBBS program, Devanur University has been heavily criticized with claims it was rushed and lacks quality. However, Dr. Malau has brushed aside critics, calling for support on this program to help address the human resource crisis, especially with shortage of doctors in the country.
Who will determine the market forces for supply of people, quality people out there? So I'm really 100% certain that in 10 or 20 years, everyone will be running around wanting to see a doctor. Shall we have the doctors out there ready for them? I think I really ask our colleagues, whoever they are, to be a bit more open-minded and please work with us.
Dr. Malau said Devanur University has the right values and is committed to quality and standards. With the necessary infrastructure, this will help provide healthcare professionals with the heart to serve.
First, as a contribution to the country's development, we want to meaningfully participate in the country's development. For us, it's the health sector we want to support. I really think those are the main ingredients and commitments the university has to contribute to nation building.
It took Devanur University 10 years to establish this MBBS program, partnering with the National Health Department, Medical Board of PNG, and other stakeholders like Frederico University School of Medicine, one of the oldest medical schools in the world, to deliver a quality outcome. He said the MBBS program is being offered in line with World Federation for Medical Education standards.
Something that is new. That's true, what I mentioned. We are at the beginning of the path. We are building capacity. We don't have all human resources or infrastructure in place yet. But we have planned for that, and we are actively working to implement this plan and to make sure that our graduates have required capacity.
The first batches of 29 students have been enrolled in the MBBS program. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
More than 50 members of the PNG Cut Flowers Association showcased their products at the 8th Annual Flower Show, currently underway at the Mosby Arts Theatre in Port Moresby. The public was treated to a variety of flower arrangements and flower displays by local farmers and florists from around the country.
With the theme promoting floriculture in PNG, PNG Cut Flowers Association members who have been venturing into this business displayed varieties of flower product in stalls and flower pot arrangements.
Right now you can see it's all trees around, it's so natural. And our flower show, yes, mainly is to do with flowers.
Following a criteria, these flowers are set for assessment by experienced florist Janet Woyengu and Department of Agriculture and Livestock Anna Yamane and Cecilia Kagana. PNG Cut Flowers Association President Mary Sound said it's the 8th year and has drawn many participating local farmers from outside of Port Moresby.
It has been encouraging, and not just like Port Moresby, we have other provinces, and it also shows that other provinces are all energetically and seriously going into flower floriculture.
EMTV spoke to Maggie Aisa, who is an experienced florist and benefiting from this industry for 7 years.
Being in this floriculture show, it's like something that has helped us to get to know other ladies from other provinces and to see what sort of flowers they have and how they can sell their products to other people.
Since its inception in 2009, this floriculture business has helped many farmers financially who have been engaged in the SME sector. The beauty of these tropical flowers may well ignite the interest of business houses, government department and people to visit the show. Eric Arupma, National EMTV News.
Turning overseas now, and astronomers on Monday announced the discovery of 3 new Earth-sized planets said to be orbiting a small, dim star commonly known as an ultra-cool dwarf. Scientists believe that these planets may be key targets for observation in their search for life on other planets.
The discovery was made using Europe's Transiting Planets and Planetesimal Small Telescope, or TRAPPIST, located at the La Silla Observatory in Chile.
The telescope finds planets by detecting changes in the amount of light coming from a star that may be caused by a planet passing by the telescope's line of sight. The Earth-sized planets are orbiting their parent star, located in the constellation Aquarius, 40 light-years away from Earth. Scientists observed that the planets are located ideally to access enough heat for there to be liquid water on their surface, a condition that they consider to be critical for fostering life. Their host star, TRAPPIST-1, is much cooler and redder than the Sun, about 8% of its size and under half as bright. Ultra-cool dwarf stars like this one are widely common in the solar system and long-lived, but this is the first time planets were discovered orbiting one. So far, astronomers have found over 2,000 planets beyond the solar system and are developing techniques to scan their atmospheres for gases that indicate biological activity. Melissa Gaviro, EMTV World News.
In a sincerity protest, Kenya has burned 105 tons of ivory worth about $100 million over the weekend. The Kenyan President, Uhuru Kenyatta, said did the lighting in person to further emphasize the sincere determination of the nation in its fight against elephant poaching.
Of about 500,000 surviving elephants in the African continent, over 30,000 of them are hunted every year, mostly for their tusks or ivories as they are known in the now internationally banned ivory trade. The mass burning of ivory came as a sincerity statement from the Kenyan government to reaffirm their stand against elephant poaching in Africa. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta said the new generation of poachers armed with new weapons and connected to the vast market across the world threatens the survival of elephants, the natural heritage and the stability of the state and the safety of the communities. Apart from the poaching threat faced by elephants annually, there are also growing conflicts between the giant mammals and communities surrounding their habitat. Nearby villages often complain of crops damaged by elephants. Humans are also injured and unfortunately some even killed by elephants. However, for-profit poaching is a larger threat to elephants than the human-elephant conflict over crops. Kenyatta's call for ivory trade ban was backed by Gabon President Ali Bongo, who stressed the importance to act sooner rather than later, highlighting other illegal activities practiced along with poaching in the continent that seek resources to operate.
With just poachers. But what we fear in the future is to see organized crime coming along, and mainly also see terrorists. Because terrorists also are in need of, resources to fund their operation. And they would get on board because these are people that are looking at any kind of illegal activity, whether arms trafficking, human trafficking, gold trafficking, diamond trafficking, but also ivory. So before it gets worse, that's why it was important for us to act now.
According to Kenyan Wild Fauna and Flora Administration, the 105 tons of ivory were from 8,000 elephants and 343 rhinoceros, which was the biggest ever incineration of its kind. Lorraine Gabina, EMTV World News.
You're watching National EMTV News. Trukai Sports is next. We'll have some updates on Taekwondo, Rugby Union and Rugby League. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. PNG Taekwondo athletes Max Millan and Samantha Kasman have claimed medals at the 3rd Taekwondo Festival in Sydney. Max Millan clinched gold while Samantha settled for bronze.
Max Millan and Samantha Kasman have still proved to be the best in the Oceania region as Max Millan claimed gold in his 63 kg battle, while sister Samantha was unlucky in Golden Point and claimed bronze in the women's heavyweight challenge. Max Millan pulled out of the 68 kg in the featherweight division due to an injury. Both have been in training under coach Andres Ratten from Germany and prepared well for the festival. The Sydney Taekwondo Festival is a fantastic competition for both high-performance sparring development as it helps Max and Samantha prepare for Rio. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
The East New Britain Rugby Football Union will hold its Rugby Sevens Grand Final this Saturday at Maltec Oval, Rabaul Town. For the first time, ENB RFU will host 4 divisions in the Grand Final, including the Women's Division. Spartans, who booked the first Grand Final spot, will take on a much-improved Redskins outfit, while in the men's Premier Grade, a match that has been labelled as the Clash of the Titans will see the Rabaul Cardinals take on the Vikings. PNG Pukpuk's Eugene Tokovai and William Tirang will feature in the Vikings team as they aim to win their first championship title in the competition. Moving on to the NRL, the Parramatta Eels have been stripped of their 12 competition points and fined $1 million Australian by the NRL for salary cap breaches. NRL Chief Executive Officer Todd Greenberg broke the news to coach Brad Arthur and a devastated Eels squad this morning. The club has also been stripped of its Auckland 9 competition title, won earlier this year as well.
A 3-month-long investigation by the NRL Integrity Unit was carried out before the team was penalised. The investigation revealed that the Eels since at least 2013 have been operating a system designed to enable it to exceed the salary cap without detection and give its team an unfair advantage to boost the pay of star players. The findings from the investigation include a series of payments that were either hidden from the NRL or misrepresented for exclusion from the salary cap. This has resulted in 5 Eels officials being removed by the NRL. They are Club Chairman Steve Sharp, Deputy Chairman Tom Isa, Director Peter Serrao, CEO John Bowlers, and Head of Football Daniel Anderson. Mathematically, the Parramatta Eels can still make the finals this year, but it will take a lot of effort. Once they have removed players to get back under the salary cap, the team can compete for competition points. They still have to reduce this year's cap salary by an estimated $500,000. The first priority for those Parramatta officials who still have a job is to work out whom to cut from the squad. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Still in the NRL, after round 9 of the NRL season, 2015 champions North Queensland Cowboys sit on top of the ladder on 14 points. Broncos sit in second place after suffering a devastating loss last weekend to the Sharks, who are on 4th. Storms are in 3rd place, while Bulldogs are in 5th, followed by the Raiders, Panthers and Sea Eagles in the top 8. The Auckland Warriors are in 9th spot on 8 points, trailed by Dragons in 10th, Rabbitohs, Titans and Tigers all on 6 points each, with the Roosters in 14th place and the Knights on 15th. The Parramatta Eels sit at the bottom of the NRL ladder after recently being stripped of their competition points. Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Minister for National Events, APEC 2018 and Sports, Justin Chechenko, has responded to safety concerns over PNG's hosting of the FIFA Women's Under-20 World Cup in November. This follows an independent review on FIFA's global operations and its commitment to human rights. FIFA has been widely criticized for the awarding of hosting rights of the 2022 FIFA World Cup to Qatar, a country widely condemned for human rights abuse against its migrant laborers. Other World Cup host countries, Brazil, Russia and PNG, have also been denounced for severe human rights issues.
The report details 25 key recommendations for action for FIFA to strengthen its commitment to human rights throughout the world. The review has questioned FIFA's choice of Papua New Guinea hosting the Under-20 Women's World Cup due to the state of PNG's treatment of gender-based violence and the high rates of sexual violence against women in the country. Minister Chechenko, in responding to these concerns, acknowledged the magnitude of crimes committed against women and girls in PNG, saying that violence against women is a global problem that is experienced everywhere in the world and not just in Papua New Guinea.
Papua New Guinea, we have our difficulties in our country, and anybody that touches a woman should face the full front of the law. No one should be allowed to touch any woman, no matter what the reason is.
Visiting countries are assured of PNG's commitment to ensuring that they will be well taken care of, where PNG will strive for participants to have memorable experiences of competing at the Women's Under-20 World Cup in a culturally diverse and linguistically rich nation with much to offer its visitors.
For us in sport especially, anything to do with women equality, it must be equal to men. And we promote that with the Sports Foundation. We do programs with that with the Sports Foundation. But as far as I'm concerned, visiting countries should not worry about that issue at hand. Yes, it's a problem which our government is directing.
The report has recommended for FIFA to include human rights within its criteria for evaluating bids to host tournaments and to make them a substantive factor in host selection. Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports.
Leicester City's English Premier League title dream finally became reality as Tottenham Hotspur wasted a 2-goal lead to draw 2-2 with Chelsea. This championship win makes Leicester City the first team to win a maiden English title since Nottingham Forest in 1978, having left the likes of Manchester City, Chelsea and Arsenal all in the wake.
Leicester City's Premier League title dream finally became reality as nearest chasers, Tottenham Hotspur, wasted a 2-goal lead to draw 2-2 in a thrilling encounter in Chelsea. First-half goals from Tottenham's Harry Kane and Son Heung-min looked like extending the title race to the second last weekend of an unforgettable season. But after the break, Gary Cahill gave Chelsea a lifeline, and Eden Hazard's superb equalizer effectively handed the title to Leicester. With 2 games left, Leicester are undisputable 7 points ahead of second place Tottenham, with their title triumph sparking joyous scenes across the East Midlands city. Leicester are champions for the first time and the first team to win a maiden English title since Nottingham Forest in 1978. Shane Soroya, National EMTV Sports.
The house in Louisville, Kentucky, where boxing legend Muhammad Ali grew up, is now a museum. Muhammad Ali, born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. on January the 17th, 1942, is an American professional boxer, generally considered among the greatest heavyweights in the history of boxing.
The house where the boy who would become boxing legend Muhammad Ali grew up was opened up to public on May 1st as a new museum dedicated to the boxer and his family. A ribbon-cutting ceremony was held on the front of the house at Grand Avenue in Louisville, Kentucky, and was attended by Muhammad Ali's younger brother, Rahman Ali. When Rahman Ali was asked how he felt about seeing his old house renovated and turned into a museum, he said,
Very, very, very excited. It's like Christmas to me. It's like a new start, a new beginning.
The house where Cassius Clay and his brother Rudolph lived from 1974 to 1961, before they changed their names, sat empty until it was bought by lawyer George Busto and real estate developer Jared Weiss, who renovated it and turned it into a museum.
Muhammad Ali greatness didn't happen by accident, and it didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen alone.
Ali is now highly regarded for the skills he displayed in the ring, plus the values he exemplified outside of it: religious freedom, racial justice, and the triumph of principle over expedience. He is one of the most recognized sports figure of the past 100 years, crowned Sportsman of the Century by Sports Illustrated and Sports Personality of the Century by BBC. Shane Soroya, National EMTV Sports.
And that ends Trukai Sports. We'll be back with all the weather details after the break.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
Taking a look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region, Port Moresby, Kerma, Alota and Popondetta fine. Brief showers expected in Daru. To the Momase region, Ley fine although cloudy at times. Medang, Wibek and Vanimo fine weather. To the New Guinea Islands region, fine in Lorengau, Keviang, Kimbe and Buka. Brief showers expected in Kokopo and Rabaul. And in the Highlands region, Goroka, Kundiao, Mendi and Wabeg, fine weather, and fine and cloudy in Mount Hagen. Before we go, recapping our top stories for tonight. 22 kilograms of marijuana found in passengers' luggage. Police Commissioner Gary Baki considers reopening fraud office after court appearance, and students at Unitech halt operations. And that's the news, sports and weather for tonight, Tuesday, the 3rd of May 2016. On behalf of the EMTV News team, I'm Maribel Tulo. Pleasant viewing. Good night.